Good evening, welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Good evening, here are tonight's main stories.
Calls for a crackdown on the landlords evicting tenants for no reason. We hear from one couple facing an uphill battle to stay in their home.
If he gets a possession order, 14 days later we'll have to move and we have nowhere to go to. Seeing Sandra struggling like this is just absolutely awful. You know, part of your vows are that you protect and stuff, and you can't do that.
Making her case, the widow of a soldier from Wakefield killed abroad flies to Cyprus to call for a fresh inquiry into his death.
It's soul destroying. I've got to go back to the country that I lived in for 6.5 years, where my husband died, and I've got still trying to battle to get the truth.
At the top of their game, the Leeds Trauma Center that's been in the business of saving lives for 10 years.
And did he have enough in the tank? Find out if this South Yorkshire firefighter broke a world record at the London Marathon. So first tonight, it's the letter from the landlord that every tenant dreads, the so-called Section 21 notice giving residents 2 months to leave their home. It's known as the no-fault eviction because it can be used to force tenants out without a reason.
One charity says 6,000 households were threatened with homelessness due to Section 21's last year. And a West Yorkshire MP says he's being inundated with requests for help after the notice has been served. But while many landlords say the cost of living crisis is forcing them to sell up, it's claimed others are abusing the system to evict tenants who ask for home improvements.
Helen Steele has been speaking to one man who says he and his disabled wife could soon be homeless after being served the notice.
It's been a year since Sandra has been able to go out and 6 months since she's been able to go upstairs to use the bathroom.
The lack of showering is something that's really important. It affects her mental health, and the stress is just, We spent 4 years rebuilding his lives after a stroke that nearly took Sandra. And to have to go through this now is just, the stress is just... She's a prisoner in the living room, isn't she?
Her husband Chris claims his landlord refused to let them install stair lifts and ramps. Then they were issued with a Section 21 notice, known as a no-fault eviction, asking them to leave their home in Pontefract. Their case will be heard in court in a few weeks.
If you lose this court case, what could happen to you then?
When it goes to court and if it gets a possession order, 14 days later we'll have to move and we have nowhere to go to. It's awful, absolutely awful. The uncertainty is, you can be awake at night, and obviously it's awful for Sandra.
But Chris and Sandra aren't the only ones fighting to stay in their home. His local MP says his inbox is increasingly filling up with similar cases. Today, he tabled a motion in Parliament to get Section 21's banned, something the government has been planning since 2019, and something that today it said it would do soon by introducing a renters' reform bill.
We're getting roughly one a week, which is staggering, really. Families come in, sometimes with kids, been living in a house and quite happy. Suddenly they get one of these notices called Section 21, and they suddenly have to leave, usually within 2 months. It's brutal.
But it's not just here in Pontefract that these no-fault evictions are causing issues. It's a national problem. According to housing charity Shelter, the number of bailiff evictions as a result of Section 21's has risen by 143% in a year. It says that's adding to the growing homelessness problem, and the charity's adding its voice to the campaign to ban them. For landlords, though, that would mean removing the option to easily evict disruptive tenants, and it's something they want the government to bear in mind.
So the benefits of Section 21 are that it means that those things can be dealt with very, very quickly, and it's really, really important that in whatever proposals the government brings forward, that they are delivered upon.
With the threat of homelessness hanging over them, speed is of the essence for Chris and Sandra too. It seems unlikely, though, that any government bill would be introduced before they face the courts next month. Helen Steele, ITV News in Pontefract.
Well, we should say that Chris and Sandra's landlord hasn't responded to requests for a comment on their situation. And don't forget, if you have a story you think we should be covering on the programme, you can email us. The address is calendar@itv.com. That's calendar@itv.com.
Well, next tonight, the widow of a Yorkshire soldier who died on an RAF base in Cyprus has travelled to the Mediterranean island as part of her campaign for a fresh inquiry into her husband's death.
Colour Sergeant Anthony Oxley from Rye Hill near Wakefield was killed when his motorcycle was hit by a car driven by an American serviceman in 2016.
His wife Sally believes an inquest into his death in 2018 left many unanswered questions. Emma Wilkinson reports.
This is a picture frame ready to go up in our daughter's room.
Sally Oxley thinks about her husband every day.
This is the day we got married.
And every day she wonders when she might finally know exactly how his life ended.
He was a great guy.
Anthony Oxley died on this RAF base in Cyprus in 2016 after a collision between his motorcycle and a car driven by a US serviceman. Jurisdiction over the case was passed to the US authorities, who decided no charges would be brought, and the American driver has never been named.
You can't just be flown back and sweep it under the carpet. This is somebody's life. This is my husband. This is the father of my child. Very little information has been given, and the MOD will not release the files. What are they holding back? My children need answers. I need answers. He shouldn't be treated like that after serving 21 years for his country.
There was an inquest in Wakefield in 2018, which recorded a narrative verdict and concluded Anthony died as a result of a road traffic collision. But Sally and her legal team say that inquest left too many questions unanswered.
It was a joke. There was no witnesses, wasn't allowed to speak about the American, wasn't allowed to speak about the passenger. There's a lot of discrepancies, a heck of a lot of discrepancies, and this needs to be sorted once and for all.
No witnesses were called, when both Sally and ourselves think there are witnesses who could be called in this investigation. And secondly, because the coroner in that inquest, we understand, had access to information which he was told he could not disclose to the court or to Sally, but relied upon in a verdict which he reached.
Sally says there is new evidence available and witnesses that could be called. So her lawyer has written to the Attorney General, seeking permission to go to the High Court and appeal for a fresh inquest. Meanwhile, Sally is also travelling to a hearing in Cyprus, where she will ask a judge to adjourn an inquest being held there until new evidence has been agreed.
It's soul-destroying. I've got to go back to the country that I lived in for 6.5 years, where my husband died, and I've got still trying to battle to get the truth, because he wouldn't have let me down, so I'm not about to let him down.
The MOD says its thoughts remain with the family, and that it continues to offer support to them during this difficult time. Sally believes the full circumstances of the crash that took her husband's life are being kept from her, and she says she won't stop until she knows the truth. Emma Wilkinson, ITV News, Barnsley.
And of course, we'll let you know what happens with that story. Now, volunteers in Sheffield are urging men to take precautions on nights out following a rise in the problem of drink spiking.
Yes, you might assume it's an issue that mainly affects women, but official figures show that around 6% of men say they've been targeted. And one police force in our region says around a quarter of victims are men.
Well, just a warning, you might find the details of what happened to one victim distressing. Stephen Hart was raped and contracted HIV after having his drink spiked. He's now speaking out to warn other men of the dangers, and he's been talking to our reporter Catherine Walker.
It was as if I'd closed my eyes for seconds, but when I looked at the clock in my flat, I realised it was 12 hours later.
This is the last picture Stephen took before his life changed forever. What started as a normal night out ended up with him being spiked and raped. 6 months later, he tested positive for HIV.
I think the only way I can describe it is it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating, and I just wanted to die, and I felt like that for so long. It affected my friendships, my relationships, my work, everything, in my life was affected by the fact of what had happened to me.
The latest figures from the Home Affairs Committee show incidents like this are on the rise, with 6% of men in the UK saying they've been the victim of spiking. But their report also says the crime is hugely underreported, and the real figures are likely to be much higher.
They can get one of these lids to go on their glasses.
It's a problem the team at Spike Aware UK are desperate to highlight. Mandy and Colin set up the charity in 2017 after their son died from a suspected spiked drink.
Really, we want men in particular to accept that they can be victims as well. Don't be embarrassed, because it can happen to anybody at any time, and report it. Men can report it as well, and that's the one thing we want, is men to come forward and say, yes, it's happened to me.
They now work with other victims like Cal, offering support and encouraging men to speak out.
How I was spiked via a needle in the back of my arm just there. I'll have a lot of female friends, and it's always been something that I've thought about for them, if that makes sense. It was something that I never ever even thought would ever happen to me, and I think that is really bad because of me being male.
In Sheffield, nighttime welfare teams agree more men need to know about the risk of drink and needle spiking.
People need to make themselves aware of that, but also take precautions. We can use spikies, we can use tops to cover your drinks, and most of the venues have got these available. And just most of all, just make sure that you're with friends and that you stay together with friends, I think.
The government says it is already investing in measures designed to keep people safe. But as spiking remains a persistent threat, victims like Cal and Stephen want to see tougher measures to protect women and men.
Well, Catherine's with us in the studio. And Catherine, just how big a problem is this in our region?
Well, as I mentioned in my report, that it's actually very difficult to work out how many men have been the victim of spiking. Firstly, it's hugely underreported. And secondly, a lot of people don't actually know if they have been the victim of spiking. But West Yorkshire Police have been looking at some of these figures regionally. So they told us in 2021, they recorded 499 spiking offences. 21% of those were men. In 2022, that increased to 717 offences, with 27 of those reports coming from men. So they've told us spiking can take place against men and women, and it's an issue they've been investigating for several years now, and they're urging people to come forward and report any offences.
Is there any way of getting a sense of just how big a problem this is nationally?
Yes, so the charity Stamp Out Spiking have just launched the biggest piece of research in the UK. It's an anonymous survey, and they're urging people across the country to fill it out over the summer. They're hoping they can get a real sense of the scale of the issue and therefore what authorities need to be doing to help.
OK, Catherine, thank you very much indeed. And of course, if you've been affected by this story, you can find more information about it and some support on our website, itv.com/calendar.
You are, of course, watching Monday's calendar, and still to come on the programme this evening. Sheffield United bring the noise to Wembley despite an FA Cup semi-final exit. Now they're hoping to roar their team to promotion.
And plenty of solar activity up in space at the moment, meaning that tonight, with clear skies and a almost new moon, we could see the aurora borealis. There's a tiny chance, but those clear skies for gardeners actually mean a widespread frost, and I'll have all the detail on that a little later on.
But first, 3 people have been arrested after a fatal crash in Bradford. The car hit a parked vehicle on the A647 Great Horton Road at around 1:30 this morning. A man in his 20s who was in the car died at the scene. 3 men have been arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving.
Tributes have been paid to former Emmerdale actor Dale Meeks, who's died at the age of 47. The actor played Simon Meredith in the soap, which is filmed at our studios here in Leeds. He also starred in children's TV show Biker Grove, and his co-stars and TV presenting duo Ant and Dec have been among those leading the tributes.
Yes, and our thoughts with everyone at Emmerdale today. Now, next tonight, doctors in the second largest trauma centre in the country say they're saving more lives than ever before. It's all thanks to advances in care at the major trauma centre in Leeds.
Patients who've suffered the most serious injuries through crashes on the region's roads, explosions, industrial accidents or even stabbings are now treated in their thousands each year at the centre in Leeds General Infirmary.
And this month marks 10 years since it opened. It's a chance to look behind the scenes at a club that, let's be honest, none of us would really want to be a member of. John Hill reports.
High above the city skyline, the air ambulance ferries another patient to the care that could save life or limb. Beneath that helipad at Leeds General Infirmary, the purpose-designed Major Trauma Center, wards, operating theatres and intensive care to treat those most in need.
You're recovering slowly, yeah?
Yep.
Darren broke multiple bones in a road accident just a few weeks ago, and he's needed several operations.
What injuries have you suffered, Darren?
2 broken legs, 2 broken shoulders, broken ribs.
And how have they treated you here?
Oh, brilliant, fantastic. I've had no severe pain, it's been under control.
Before this centre and others across the country opened a decade ago, care wasn't bad, but it could have been better. Some patients went to district hospitals, some might be later transferred to bigger city hospitals like Leeds, delays which could cost lives. Now, under one roof, consultant Nick Kanakaris says the most critically injured stand a much better chance.
We have seen an impact of 32% improvement of the people that we can save their lives following a major accident.
How are you doing?
Well, not doing so bad.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Henry and Bob both know what it's like to survive life-changing accidents. Both had legs amputated after separate crashes. But Bob returned to the Major Trauma Center as a volunteer with the charity Day One to help counsel patients like Henry.
Henry, what difference did it make having somebody like Bob who'd been through something very similar? What difference did it make to your recovery?
It was the difference of keeping and trying to save my leg or having the amputation. That was the major decision, and because Bob had been through it already, it gave me a bit of an insight and being able to say physically that I was going to agree to an amputation.
And how would you think he looks now, Bob?
He looks a lot better than I do.
And for the nurses and doctors, it's a reward beyond price to see patients like Henry survive life-threatening injuries thanks to their care.
It's a feeling that you can't really describe until you've experienced it. It's an incredible feeling knowing that you've been part of that, seeing someone come in and be in such a difficult position and then leave as a different person, knowing that you've contributed to that is something that money can't buy. We really are lucky.
You feel a bit better?
Yep, just aching.
Darren faces months of rehab after his major trauma. But after a road accident that nearly cost him his life, he's now on a new path, a road to recovery. John Hill, ITV News, Leeds.
Incredible stories, incredible skill of those people who work there.
We'd be lost without them, wouldn't we?
Wouldn't
Certainly
we?
would. Now then, it's weather time and Kerry is here. And Kerry, I was expecting the worst at the weekend, but actually it was quite pleasant.
You know what, it was a little bit better than I said, didn't I? It's better than the other way round. Tell you it's going to be nice and it rains. But freezing this morning, so we had a good dose of sunshine, but really cold. In fact, temperatures felt more like 3 to 6 Celsius in that Arctic northerly wind today. So gardeners and growers definitely need to be aware with their tender plants overnight tonight, because there is a real risk of a widespread frost. So these are the lows we're expecting, a potentially damaging frost. Quite unusual for the time of year. The average overnight low, even in rural spots, is about 4 or 5, and we're looking at potentially around -4 Celsius as we head through into the early hours. So a chilly night to come if you've got some tender plants. Also put a duvet on them.
Take care of your plants.
Yeah, for sure.
Opposite issue in Europe at the moment.
Yeah, complete contrast. So if you've chosen this coming week to take a warm spring break rather than a hot summer break, think again. Extreme heat is building around Iberia and North Africa. So we've got the cold northerly coming from the Arctic, but seeping in from the south for, yes, North Africa and parts of Spain, the likes of Seville and Murcia. We're looking at the high 30s, and I think they're record is 37.4, which was back in 2011 for this month, for April. So they could well break the records as we head through towards the end of the week. So too hot, that, isn't it?
It's pretty hot, that one. I'm not sure I could cope with that this time of year.
Yeah.
Go on, just a little bit of heat, just a tiny bit.
Tiny bit of heat, miniature bit of heat. For summer, not for April.
Yeah.
Okay.
A bit too soon.
It's looking like it's probably going to be above average by the weekend, if that makes you feel better.
All right, we'll hold you to that, Kerry.
I promise.
Thank you.
Now, the ITV Evening News continues here at 6:30, so here's a look at what's happening with Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, fears for thousands of British citizens left stranded in Sudan. As fighting there rages on, the government warns help for those left behind will remain severely limited until a ceasefire is reached. Here, dental costs are rising by more than 8%, yet a quarter of people say they already can't afford treatment. And tributes pour in for King of the Ballroom Len Goodman, who's died at the age of 78. We'll do Johnny for those stories and more at 6:30.
Thank you, Mary. Well, it's time for some sport now, and sadly the end of Sheffield United's FA Cup run at Wembley.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Well, let's say hello to Arif now. And Arif, you know, I really hoped that Sheffield United would do it, but it wasn't to be, was it?
No, they gave it a good go though, didn't they? But they were realistic about their chances, you know, coming up against Manchester City, one of the best teams in Europe. But for Sheffield United, promotion to the Premier League has always been their aim, which they could secure on Wednesday. So an FA Cup semi-final and a trip to Wembley was an added bonus for the fans. It was a day 30,000 Sheffield United fans were determined to enjoy. Despite coming up against one of Europe's best teams in the FA Cup semi-final, Blades fans didn't let that get in the way of having a good time in the capital.
Hopefully we get one goal, we'd be happy.
Yeah, if we get one goal, it's party time for us. We've got here, we've had a great season. That's all it's about for us, enjoying the day. Win or lose.
It's FA Cup, anything can happen. It's the magic of the FA Cup. No problem.
I feel like he'll go all right first off, and then all hopes for next off.
I'm not bothered if we win, it's just the experience, isn't it?
Anything can happen, but if it's single figures, I'll be happy.
Iliman Ndiaye had Sheffield United's best chance in just the second minute. His shot straight at the keeper. Riyad Mahrez coolly put Manchester City in front from the penalty spot just before the break. After driving through the defence, he got his second, before expertly dispatching for his hat-trick. And with it, Sheffield United's chance of reaching their first FA Cup final in 87 years.
Well, it wasn't to be for Sheffield United, but there's certainly no harm in losing to Manchester City. It's been an FA Cup run this long. Won't forget in a hurry.
How can you be sad? But think about it. Burnley lost to them 6-0. We've done 3-0.
I'm proud because we've got past Tottenham and to get to semi-final.
We were playing Man City, best team in the world. Exactly. Couldn't be more prouder. Prouder.
Disappointed on the result, but it was still a good day out, and we did well. The Blades did.
Well, now it's about promotion on Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all that matters now. Well, it's in the bag. It's got to be now.
It was always going to be difficult. Obviously, everyone thought we were going to lose anyway, but we gave it our best shot, and as I say, they were just too good.
And now it's about rest, recovering, and make sure you get promoted on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, arguably a bigger game than this for us. Back to our normal sort of work, if you like. This was a day out for the fans, but now we need to get back at it now and hopefully get that win.
Look good for Rotherham. History really isn't on the Millers' side, as over the last 5 seasons Rotherham have yo-yoed between the Championship and League One, and Jordan Hugo equalised against Bristol City. It looked like they earned a vital point to widen that gap from the relegation zone in the Championship, but they conceded a 91st minute goal to lose 2-1. In League One, it was a happy birthday for Sheffield Wednesday manager Darren Moore. His team came from behind to beat Exeter to keep their hopes of an automatic promotion push alive. I'm not sure I've seen this though too many times. This game was stopped for around 6 minutes in the first half when referee Declan Bone injured himself and he had to be replaced. But after falling behind once play eventually got back underway, the Owls rallied to come back and won the game 2-1. Barnsley are right on their heels. They made light work of Oxford. Slobodan Tadic scored a double as they won 2-0. The Tykes are now unbeaten in 9 games at Oakwell. And in League Two, Bradford's chances of automatic promotion took a hit. Andy Cook's penalty looked to have won the game for the Bantams, but Gillingham had other ideas, equalising in the 97th minute. And Mansfield will be wondering what they need to do to get in the playoff places. They've lost only once in the last 10, but remain outside of the top 6 on goal difference. And now we're getting into the real business end of the season. Lots going on.
Absolutely. We'll keep you in mind whenever we need to know what's happening.
Well,
so thanks very much.
Keeping you busy, Aaron. Thank you.
And lots on the line, of course, for lots of our teams there. And staying with sporting endeavour, yesterday saw thousands of runners taking part in the London Marathon. And it was an incredible debut for this man, Emile Carres, who from Bradford and who became the third fastest British man in history over the 26.2 miles when he took 6th place in the elite men's race, overtaking none other than Sir Mo Farah on his way.
And that clearly took some effort. Spare a thought for South Yorkshire firefighter Mark Pitt, who completed the course wearing full kit and breathing apparatus in an impressive 4 hours 42. That's unofficially broken the record for both the full and half marathon. He's awaiting confirmation of that.
Well, what an achievement. And Scunthorpe reality TV star Jake Quickenden didn't make it easy for himself either. He completed the course wearing a giant bone outfit. It was to raise money for a bone cancer charity in memory of his brother and his father, who both died from the disease.
And we should also congratulate former Leeds United and Sheffield Wednesday midfielder Carlton Palmer. He also went the distance. That's despite suffering a heart scare in the Sheffield Marathon just a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah,
incredible undertaking to do that after that experience. And many congratulations to everyone who took part, raising so much money. Hopefully they're putting their feet up and getting a well-earned rest today.
And you're not putting your feet up, are you? Because you're training for a marathon.
I am, yes. I'm training for the Rodborough Marathon, which is actually 3 weeks yesterday. So I've still got all that to come.
Oh, good luck with that.
You're going to need it.
Now the weather. Here's Kerry.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. So it's mixed weather-wise across the region today. Fairly cloudy, damp, cool and showery, especially to eastern parts first thing. We did see some sunshine this morning, but also for this afternoon, quite a bit of cloud cover and 1 or 2 showery outbreaks, especially out towards the coast and over higher ground. So most of this rain turning to the southwest, the showers coming in from the northeast and pretty much squeezing that sunshine a little bit into the afternoon. 1 or 2 of those showers on the wintry side over the Dales and hopefully easing as we head through into tonight. So still the risk of a breeze and some showers out towards the coast, so keeping temperatures just above freezing. But elsewhere, our map turns fairly blue for the time of year. Clear skies and lighter winds means temperatures will take a tumble, and in rural shelter, -4 not out of the question. Maybe even 1 or 2 rogue icy stretches as we head towards dawn tomorrow. But the sunshine should soon get to work on that frost, and quite quickly it will disappear tomorrow morning with a lovely dose of sunshine. A few coastal showers to start the day, but hopefully they will move offshore into the North Sea. And then for the afternoon, a bit more cloud around, mostly dry. Temperatures still struggling to get to the average, and an exposure to that northerly breeze. Again, especially out towards the coast, it will feel much colder than that. This is some states to the southwest as we head to Wednesday, but it will generate a bit more cloud. So a mix of cloudier skies, sunny spells and showery outbreaks for midweek on Wednesday. Still below average for the time of year. Then average temperatures, but still the risk of some cloud, if not longer spells of rain as we head towards Friday, and easterly it will be fresher at the coast. But we do think at this stage, although the weather will be mixed, that temperatures will start to improve and be a little above normal by the time we reach the weekend.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
There you go, 17, 18 by the weekend. Will that do you?
I could do with it warming up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Cold one tonight, though, obviously.
It will be tonight, yeah. Sure.
I'm worried about my potatoes. I finally put them in, and now look what's happened.
Oh, have you not wrapped them up?
I will, yeah. Look after your delicates. That's it for now. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.